All right, let's try this again. Welcome to a Jan 2 edition of the MSP Initiative, MSP Talk. It is a new year, 2025, and we bring on the OGs. One, Kenny P, as you all know and love, and me and my bald head here in Philadelphia, Georgie B, or whatever you want to call me. I am here, Eagles fan included. So, MSPinitiative.com. That's where you're going to find everything we do, including, links to our YouTube page, podcatcher, recorded versions of these episodes, and then a bunch of other things like our calendar for the year is posted, although we're constantly updating it because, people are just throwing up all of their events, which I'm told are going to be even more than the last year or two, maybe not combined, but just cumulatively. Anyway, I digress. MSPinitiative.com. We're not going to go into it because you can go check that out afterwards. We're going to use as much time as we can to talk shop. Welcome, one Kenny P from outside of Boston. How you doing today, my friend?
Oh, I'm fantastic, George. Absolutely fantastic. What else? We're starting a new year. It's time to, get all those New Year's I don't even do them. What are those things called again?
Resolutions.
Resolutions.
Yeah,
Come on now.
I think I told on my social media feed that like the second Friday in January is where you give up on your resolutions.
It's pretty quick usually. That's why the resolution thing for me. I mean, I try to take it as maybe I'll get some things rolling, but from a resolution standpoint, I know where those resolutions lie. Like you said, maybe a week, maybe two, maybe a month. Let's try to not call them resolutions so we can have them be continuous things.
That's
Although,
fair.
you
That's
know,
fair.
you started yours.
I feel a lot better now in January 25 than I did in January 24. That much I can tell you.
Yeah.
It's been a good, 2024 was like let's get my health, figured out so that I'm not always feeling like junk after getting off an airplane. So no, that needed to be done apparently. And I
Yeah.
remember
See, that's not a resolution though. That's a life change. See that, that's what I'm saying is we got to get more on track of, hey, this isn't just something we do in January. This is something that we're going to do rolling forward. As we had these conversations around physical and mental health, which, they're very closely tied together.
I'll tell you what, you know, and I've said this in many circles. I'll say it now here, live in this recording, but the MSP IT services business is a hard business. I don't think anyone will convince me otherwise. I've lived it. I know you've lived it a couple times actually. There is a reason why hiring is still in the top three issues business owners in this industry have. Retention is right next to it. So, getting the right people, keeping the right people, being able to compensate those people properly, which comes back to one of the other top five issues that these people have been complaining about for the last 20 years, like properly pricing things, adjusting pricing, how to properly increase pricing, how to notify people of pricing changes. And then you get all the other issues, right? The big guys up top, like Microsoft, deciding to just change their pricing, NCE, rack up the bill 20% more, with very little notice, stuff like that. You hear about no vacations, no time off, calls at any hour. You got to be online all the time, plugged in all the time. I mean, it will wear on the even the strongest that I know. It does definitely chip away. Because at some point you can only run at that speed for so long without taking a
Yeah.
break. It's really
Yeah. I agree. I 100% agree. I mean, it's it's interesting because you and I are both those personalities though. Well, where we will put in the, 80-hour work week and the, work week. Maybe 5 days is 80, right? So we both come from that cloth, right? Where that's normal for us. We're gonna grind it out. We're gonna work it out. But it definitely does take its toll on you. You do have to take time to take care of yourself, and obviously take care of your family, take care of your loved ones, whatever it is that you have, your other connections too. Because
I think some of it can is just your word is your bond. You tell somebody you're going to be available,
yep,
they're going to be able to rely on you. You don't want to let people down or tell people
yep,
something that doesn't become true. At the end of the day, here's what it comes down to. you also aren't charging appropriately to have the
Right.
911 triage center set up, right? And so as a result, it all comes back down to the person at the top of, or buck stops here, check sign or whatever it is. And like that takes a toll. You like at some point you need to sleep. And by the way, sleeping, I know they say you need at least 8 hours, but like when you're not sleeping 4 hours, is a problem. And it is exhausting. And then you get, and it's funny, we've had a lot of, we just had MSP valuations on right before the end of the year, and you constantly try and like look at the bank account at the end of the year. Was it worth it? Did it work?
Right.
Did you end
Yep.
up on the upside, or are you actually not even break even? Are you in debt by running this business? Sucks.
Yeah, and you're right, and it definitely starts at the top when you're talking about, you know, determining your value, basing your prices. Your prices should be covering your costs, and that means your costs, your employees' costs, all the things that you talk about. And quite honestly, when I was doing it, I didn't even do full after hours support. I made it so that it was so pricey that if they were serious, they'd do it, because you know how it goes, George. There's some of these people that say, "Oh, I want this after hours support," and you set up this weird system where if the tech gets called, you give them a little bonus, and you do this, you do that, and 9 times out of 10 they'll call and say, "Oh, I didn't realize that this was part of that charge," and then there's that battle. So first of all, you set expectations properly. Say exactly what it is you do, the hours of operation, what happens if they have a full blown emergency, if that's even available. Setting those expectations for one, and then of course, to your point, charging what you're worth. It's not that big a deal to charge what you're worth. If you're not covering your expenses at the end of the day, it's going to affect you and the people who work for you when it hits the fan, right? When
Well,
you can't get to that point.
but hold on. I mean, the lawyer charges. I don't, they pay that
Mhm.
bill, right? The doctor charges. They pay that bill. But when the mechanic and the IT guy and the plumber and all these other guys charge, is a problem. Like there are certain industries that are not valued, from the surface for some reason. And how many times, and we'll go into some of the 2024, 25, and 25 stuff in a minute here, but how many times have you had a customer who's like, oh, just give me the login, I'll go and do it. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, you're a doctor. You have no clue what doing it even means. So he's like, well, how hard can it be? You can figure it out. It means I can figure it out. I was like, no, I do this every day. You don't. Are you asking me to go and open somebody up underneath the needle because if you can figure it out, I can figure?
Yeah,
Like,
George, give me that scalpel. Let me have that scalpel. I
you
got
wouldn't
it.
let me drive a tour bus. I mean,
Well, yeah, it's a whole other can of worms.
I'm just saying. I just find that the conversation is never on the level. It always seems to be discounted.
Well, George, you're again, we're going to go down this road of 2024 and 2025, and this is still plays into all of this. But you're still at the end of the day talking about your value. And you have to convey, as a business owner, whether it's in IT or not, plumber or not, you have to convey that value to your prospects, to your customers, and you also have to be strong enough to say no to the people who don't see that value. That's the difference between it. Now, sure, every now and again, someone might squeak through and you have the situation that you're talking about. But I feel like now there are good enough checklists that you can put in place when you're interviewing a prospect. I'll say it. You should be interviewing your prospects just like you'd interview someone coming into a job. And you should be asking questions that go down that road of, are you growing? Are you okay with technology? Do you value technology? Do you understand what technology means to your business? Going down the right road of figuring out if they're even going to be the right customer changes that whole conversation.
Well, I mean, it's not just the right customer. It's not just the profitability. It's also the liability. Like there's the other part of the sandwich,
Right.
right? The back end of the bread that you got to put, like I think it's also that. And I think people don't think about that till they run into a problem and they get burned, right? But bottom line is you're in business to make money.
Yep.
If you created an IT services company for a job, I'm not sure that was a good reason to do it. Just gonna be honest. You'd be better off working for somebody else, not having to deal with half the mess that we're talking about here, in my opinion. But if you're in business to build a business and create value and build wealth and create a profitable company that has, upside to it, yeah, picking and choosing is important. And I know I was there, Kenny was there. You take anything you can when you first turn on the
Right.
lights in order to pay the bills, but you know, not too far after that beginning stage, that begins to take negative impact.
Well,
Big time.
George, I wouldn't even be able to sit here and talk about value and questioning if I didn't go through the pain of taking every single customer that wanted to pay me money. Oh, your cash is green. Let's go. Right. And then I found how how not so green that money was when they weren't paying their bills either on time or paying at all, complaining about every single, ticket, whether it was real or not, all the crap that goes along with that. I wouldn't have learned any of that without that pain. And then, of course, our community of talking to people who said, hey, I just did this. Right. And now, again, building that value and understanding who your prospects are, they have to value what you do, and you have to show them that you value what they do. If you have that trust, if you have that connection, you're less likely to be dealing with these problems. And if you're setting expectations like, hey, guess what? You're not going to be paying this rate for the rest of your life. Just like you raise your rates, we raise our rates to cover the cost of taking care of you. If you can set those expectations with your prospective customers, they'll be better customers.
Yeah. Then we can go into what's the best way to raise your prices. But, I actually had a vendor send me, with their bill for the month, first of the month. So, I get their bill and it's like, oh, by the way, we raised our prices 30%. Here's the bill. And it's like, no, we're not doing this. Like, like zero notice, pay me now doesn't work.
Zero notice 30%, especially doesn't work. If they said, hey, we raised our rates 5% or whatever, you might have a little bit of flexibility there, but yeah, that's a jump. Again, it's expectations, George, right? If you set the expectation of these are the reasons why costs could go up and this is how they'll be affected, and we'll give you a notice, not many people are going to complain about that. It's like contracts. This came up in one of our conversations, right? Somebody brought up that MSPs are not paying attention to the contracts. And I agree with that. I feel like the onus is on us too to read those contracts a little better or hire someone who knows how to read them better than us, because we're the first ones to complain when we get hit by the who's of the world that hit us with a contract that doesn't allow us to do certain things, or it gets a little bit crazy. And if we had a lawyer read that contract over, they would have been able to find that problem quickly. Again, paying someone for their services so you're not paying bigger down the line and understanding that. But I feel like as just business owners in general, we as a community need to also be better at that. Stop
Well,
thinking that we can do that part of it too and have those contracts read through so that yes, it's horrible what people are doing with contracts nowadays. It's horrible. But we're
if you,
partly to blame too for not having them read through properly on the other
all right, I got a good story here. So I went to Chuck E. Cheese last night. I got two young
end.
kids, and Chuck E. Cheese now offers a subscription. Right. So instead of paying for so many games or so much time, right? It's like this ad hoc, right? Think hourly, right? I'm paying you per hour, right? They offer you pay monthly,
Yeah.
minimum 12 months. So is this shocking? Minimum 12 months. So you pay either was like $8 a month, $12 a month, something like this, right? Like fairly inexpensive, right? Minimum 12 months. You have to give them 15 days notice before the renewal to cancel. So you can't cancel before 12 months. And if you want to cancel for the next month, you have to give them 15 days notice before the cancellation occurs. So when I actually was going through subscribing for this, because I'm like, well, how many times I'm going to take my kids to Chuck E. Cheese this year? Well, how many times did you bring them
Right.
last year? And you do the math. I'm sure if Disney World had, oh, they do. You are on that. I'm sorry, I forgot. But like, they basically at the bottom were like, you have to check boxes at the bottom before you put your credit card in, like, because they assume you did not read, right? It's like,
Right.
check box. You understand this is a 12-month agreement. You can't stop getting billed before 12 months, right? Checkbox number 2, you understand you need to give us 15 days notice in order to cancel this before your billing will stop, right? Check 3, like you actually had, before they would let you put your credit card number in, you had to, at the bottom, had to check these boxes because they assume you didn't read.
Right.
And I was like, so the kid entertainment business is adopting the same things that the SaaS world in our sandbox is doing. And I laughed, and it was funny because I went to the car wash 2 weeks ago, down the street, and they have an app, right? And they have 3 lanes now, right? These Nuvo car washes. Like, hey, you need to talk to a person at a window, lane 1. But if you have the app, you don't have to talk to anyone, just lanes 2 and 3. And so I get there. He's like, hey, we're running a promo for the amount you're going to pay for your car wash today. We're going to give you a month subscription. I was like, okay. He's like, but if you don't cancel before this date, it's going to auto renew for another month. I was like, okay. And I was like, how many times I got to get my car washed? I was like, it's winter time, right? Snow, salt, whatever. I was like, let's try for a month and see. Now, I'm probably going to end up canceling now. But like every single industry is adopting the same things that we've been seeing in our industry for years.
Yeah. Well, just remember it started with the cable company and the phone companies and the whole thing started there, which is hilarious when you think about people are willing to pay. They don't even know how much their phones are worth. They're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go get the brand new, whatever iPhone, Android phone, whatever. They don't realize it costs $1,500 because they're like, oh, I'm paying $30 a month. This is easy. Then they get locked in, and then they realize they can't trade their phone in because they're under contract and they still owe money on the phone they have in their hand. And there's all these crazy clauses, right? But they don't mind that.
It
They
used to
don't
be
mind that.
it used to be 24 months. Now it's like 36 months or 30
They don't,
months
yeah,
or
and they
35.
don't mind it. They don't mind doing that, but they don't want to pay an IT company who's asking them is helping them protect their assets. Like those are those analogies that it's like, hey, see that phone in your hand? Yeah, that costs more than the computer that you're not willing to, the new computer you're not willing to replace
Oh yeah,
to
I remember.
fix something in
I
your office.
I remember there was a time when we thought that was crazy, but they clearly
Mhm.
proved this wrong. Palm Pilot days. If you want to go back there. All right. So, um, reflective time, right? So like a couple of things, I was pulling up like, hey, 2024, like, funnily enough, timely, I got emails in my inbox. It was like, hey, biggest news stories of 2024. I was like, oh, let's try some of these and see if we all agree, right? So I wanted to go through some of these quickly with you and just get your opinion. So this is CRN, channelcompany.com. Okay. 10 biggest news stories of 2024. Number 10. Again, this is not me. This is Channel Company. Donald Trump wins another term as president of the United States.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's big news.
Yep. That was number 10. All right. Number 9. Broadcom's $69 billion acquisition of VMware.
I mean,
I mean, it hasn't gone well for the
that's a
people.
lot of money, right? No, it's a lot of
And there's a
money.
lot of people that left VMware as a result.
There was a lot of people affected by it, but in my world or in our world, I really didn't feel like that many people were that affected by VMware. They were
I
already
feel like
moving
when the
away.
prices got jacked by
Yeah, people were
10x,
moving away. They saw this coming. They started to find other means and other ways. Plus, before that, there were things like Nerdio and like I don't know. They were just a lot of newer technology out there that was coming into play that was kind of taking the place of this. And then when people heard the news, they started to run. The thing that's shocking is that, when you talk about 60 some odd $billion and you talk about the jobs that were lost and the people that's big. But from an industry perspective, I don't think it had the impact on our industry as much as, some other mergers or acquisitions.
Okay, well, what you just said is story number 8, that the IT industry layoffs from 21, 22, 23 continued into 24. And if you actually consolidate and accumulate all of the layoffs, it's way up. There's way more people have been cut that have been hired. And to be totally honest, even in our own sub industry of the larger tech industry,
Yep.
that's still true.
Yeah, no, we've seen it. Look, we've had conversations about the quiet ones, the ones that don't look like layoffs, but we know that there's some kind of layoff happening, right? The people that are just kind of switching jobs and it's gone quietly. So you don't see it as much, but we know it's out there. We know that that's happening. And it's okay. I mean, I think it's better than just letting someone go, I guess, right? You're taking care of them and you're kind of, but it's not reflective of a number of saying, hey, these people are actually part of a layoff. Um, and you're right. we saw we saw a lot of this. I don't think it's gone down, but we also know that part of this,
I
George,
expect more, actually.
and I think that part of this is a part of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, I think that there was a lot of just silly hiring. I'll go that way. I won't be negative, but there was some silly hiring, paying people more than they were worth, going out and finding multiple people and just dragging them in at this high rate and then burning cash.
Mm.
And then those people got into these positions, felt that they were, that's where they should be. But then the place falls to pieces, and then people start shifting around, and then all of a sudden the marketplace is affected by this higher number.
It is. I think I know who the companies that you're.
There's a lot, right? Yeah, there's a lot, and there's a lot. There's a lot. There's some that we're not even thinking about that we don't even really know 100%. But
There's
just
some
in
that
general, yeah, in general, these types of things cause these layoffs to happen, and it's still part of the bubble of layoffs,
Yeah.
right? And then you can't go get the marketplace is affected by this.
A correction has to happen,
right?
Yeah.
People either, and by the way, it's not always the correction that you think. Is it that people are going to say, well, this is the going rate, I'm going to pay it, or are they going to say, well, you know what, we're not going to pay that, right? And
like,
we can't
where's the NFL salary cap in the MSP industry?
Yeah, and we're talking about fiscal responsibility now, right? A lot of these businesses have fiscal responsibilities and can't just go out there and pay that.
I agree. So number 7 was Cisco remains itself for a new era. Whatever. I don't find that interesting. I'm moving on.
Nope.
Microsoft moves forward with AI and Copilot plus PCs, but hits some turbulence. It's funny. Elon Musk, I believe, I don't hold it for fact, but I believe I read that Elon Musk said that Copilot with Microsoft is just rebranding of ChatGPT in a different label. Like, it is the same code. They just took a smaller, watered down version of it, put a wrapper around it, put it out there. I believe he did say this, but you can go back and fact check me if you want. I got to tell you what, I've seen Copilot. I've seen so far, and like a little bit underwhelming. I know it's changing. Like, the whole AI thing is the new buzzword and it's changing every 6 months, but Copilot specifically, like, I don't see a lot of value. And let me even like fraction that down for the small, medium business space. I'm not seeing the value. Right now, it's kind of Jan 2/25. As of today, I'm not seeing the value.
I'm kind of mixed on it because I know some people who have been building successful businesses around Copilot. There are some pretty smart people that we both know in this industry that have built very successful businesses around Copilot. So, and I've heard the people who are underwhelmed too. So that's why I'm saying I'm mixed, because in my day-to-day, it's not something that I use. But I think that there are a lot of MSPs, and we know there are some folks that we know that use Copilot for some pretty cool stuff, and it works for them.
Well, the other thing in this article they're saying was the whole Microsoft recall feature, where like tracks everything you've ever done on the computer, including keyboard strokes, and it's almost like corporate spyware, and that there was a big privacy, upheaval on it, and they kind of like reverted on that for a minute, and yeah, I don't know. To be seen. I just think right now, I'm not going to go tell every small business person that comes and asks me for my recommendation, refresh all of your computers and go buy Copilot computers right now. I don't see the value right now for you to go and do that investment. Just my personal opinion. I'm sure we could have, maybe one of these times we'll bring a whole panel of people on. Maybe some of the people you're talking about, we'll have a different discussion. But as of today,
there you go. That's
early days.
You just came up with a future show. Nice job.
There you go. All right. Number 5 out of 10. No, the ongoing wave of ransom attacks and IT systems breaches. I feel like it never stopped. Why is it a new story? But okay.
That's not a new story. Yeah, I mean, maybe they're going to talk about the growth, but that's going to keep happening too.
Well, they talked about Snowflake, which was behind AT&T and Ticketmaster breaches.
Yeah,
Microsoft disclosed one. Big one. United Health disclosed one. They have a list of all of these. And at the very end is kind of recent. It's the 9 telecom networks that were
Yeah.
compromised by the Chinese linked Salt Typhoon, compromise where they were, and then the FBI came out recently and were like, hey, don't send text messages, just regular text messages that could be, visible. And I'm like, I don't know, Ken, listen, I haven't researched that particular story as deeply as I probably want to. I'm just going to go on a guess. I think the government, our government, the United States government, had all of this backdoor capability into the large telecommunication companies for years, post 9/11, Patriot Act, all this, whatever. And I believe the backdoors got backdoored. I think, it kind of looks that way, right? And they were like, oops, like you created a door and you maybe didn't lock it well. And then somebody else found that door and walked through it. Like, and here we are. And this is a guy that, is not necessarily the guy that should have been walking through that door. Not good. What do you do?
Well,
It's so far upstairs. What can you really do?
right. Well, and how about the Chinese coming at the feds? I mean, have you seen like this?
Yeah, the
been
Treasury Department.
huge, there's been a huge amount of that just in the last quarter where the Chinese is coming at the feds. And then you have, there was one, I'm trying to think of, there was another one. Oh, did you see the hackers hijacked 35 Chrome extensions?
I saw that.
Right, it led to the compromise of at least 35 extensions that injected code, and it's crazy. This isn't. It's not that it's a surprise. It's just growing and growing and growing.
Moving on. Number 4. NVIDIA's rise and Intel's struggles. They're saying because NVIDIA is behind a lot of the chips that make AI turn, and even our friend over there, Mr. Jay McBain, says that he thinks Intel won't exist in its current form at the end of this year.
I mean, that's a statement you can make about every company that should be growing and evolving.
Number 3, HPE, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, completes Juniper acquisition, $14 billion. This one, I think I have to agree. I'm surprised it's not number 1. Now I'm curious to see what number 1 is. CrowdStrike and the global IT outage. That's a hard one not to argue. I can't argue that. Yeah, I might think it should be the number 1.
And it was a process problem, not a. No, that was a process.
Yeah. And then there's the outstanding $500 million lawsuit by Delta Airlines against CrowdStrike and a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, that's just the beginning. That's just going to cause that's like the beginning of the snowball effect right there.
I see. Now I'm definitely going to argue it should have been number 1. Number 1 is AI wave, and that it continues to make remake the IT and channel industry. Early days, guys, but I'm gonna put it. If this is number 1, I don't think it should have been number 1. But let's say if it is, it's their number 1. 1A is. Did you hear that the power consumption required to do all this AI stuff it outpaces even the electric car problem, right? To the point where Europe came out and said that they're putting like a cap on how much energy usage can be used at the data center.
Yep.
Actually, here in Pennsylvania, do you remember 3 Mile Island? There's a Netflix documentary.
I heard it's being reopened.
It is. It is being reopened for AI power usage.
That is, yeah. I did see that, and I did know that it was due to that, which is insane to think about.
So, like, I think it's like one of the big tech companies, like Microsoft or Google, are reopening it. And like Pennsylvania.
I think you're right. I think it is Google, to be honest with you. But
I was just like, dude. I was like, there's a Netflix docuseries on this meltdown. Like, this could have been our version of Chernobyl. Okay.
I remember, lived through it.
Which is, I think Jimmy Carter, who just passed away at 100 years old, was the president when that happened. Just to put two stories together there. Then another set of channel company was 24 biggest M&A deals of 24. I'm just gonna.
I saw that one, and I don't know. I think sometimes they reach, for bigger, and like from a standpoint of what we see in the channel, a lot of those were.
Some of them are named like Xerox and Lexmark was, there are 2 names that have been around.
But I mean, I don't know. When I think about Lexmark, even any printing I mean, I haven't heard anything about HP print in I don't know how long, or
But
Lexmark.
the printer still exists.
The printer still exists, but we're not talking about it as anymore, right? It's not the same.
Some of these I haven't even heard of, but I'm seeing a lot of the VCPE companies we heard of, like Thoma Bravo keeps popping up here. And it's like, oh, you know, you keep on seeing all these acquisitions using VCPE money, which I'm sure only goes up. Hewlett Packard and a company called Morpheus, which I actually knew, SAP and a company, you know, like the big companies keep doing big company things.
Right. Gobbling up what they can.
Open Text buys another thing. And
yeah, how's that working out? That's the thing. Like they have all these companies that they purchase, but internally they're a complete mess.
Sophos buys a company who's already venture backed. A lot, you know, I just think it's a lot of big companies and big company things. Salesforce buys a company for 1.9 billion. A lot of PEVC money here, which I think is just coming back. Like now that the interest rate's going down again, or you know, it already got, you know, the ConnectWise axing its sky kick, which I haven't heard anything really since that, other than the deal was done. Has anything changed?
A bunch of people got let go.
This is true.
That's another part of that whole, conversation. And
Yeah.
it was very quiet. It's very quiet to me that, they had the one big name, right? One big name that they said, was out. And then you didn't hear anything. And then all you hear is the rumblings. Hey, did you hear? There's a lot of people let go internally,
Yeah.
but it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that there was a couple of things commingled there. If I had to guess, I don't think it was just merging of companies and redundant people, but that's just me. I know nothing. Then here's the next headline: 10 biggest tech layoffs of 2024. It's a shame that it has its own category, but it is
right.
And like we said, this is not like if you take 21, right? Pandemic, right at the beginning of 21, 22, 23, 24, it has just been doing this. Like, okay, Ingram Micro, they have in here 850, AMD 1,000, a company called Cloud Software Group, 1,000, Salesforce 1,000, Open Text 1,200, Microsoft 1,500, Xerox 3,100, Cisco almost 10,000,
Oof.
SAP 10,000, Intel 15,000. These are big numbers.
That's a lot of people without a job.
Still,
Yep.
on top of the people who are from before, right? So,
and then there's like you said, like we talked about, the non-public people that they're, that the numbers that you don't see.
oh yeah, for sure. Then they have the 10 most controversial companies of 2024. Ready? C1 files for bankruptcy, Converge one. Okay. I mean, it's not a big, name that I talk about every day.
Nope.
Ivante Connect Secure VPN hit with mass exploitation. I don't know how many MSPs are actually using that, but okay. Here we go. ArcServe suddenly just exits the MSP market.
I thought they were already gone.
So, ArcServe / StorageCraft. Remember that?
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Dell fiscal year didn't go as planned.
That has to be a big number for them to say didn't go as planned. If it was a little off, it wouldn't be news.
It was a lot off.
Yeah.
But billions off.
Yeah.
Cisco layoffs. It's a lot of layoffs. Google facing pressure to break a monopoly, which I think is not totally finished yet, but it's out there. New administration, right? Then it says Microsoft security. Number 4, Microsoft security shortcomings, Copilot Plus PC recall feature, monthly billing premium increase criticism. So it's just like Microsoft as a consolidated story of controversy.
Right.
And then Intel turmoil, CEO resigns, budget cuts, layoffs. Of course, CrowdStrike's in here, number 2. Again, number 2. And they have number 1, Broadcom VMware.
It's because of the number. 69 billion gets people's attention.
Then they had 20 biggest IT executive moves of 24.
Yeah, don't go down that list because you don't know most of them.
Yeah, not necessarily interested. And then I screenshotted a few different ones that I saw coming into this call off of social that I thought were timely. One of them was, here we go. This is a PEVC guy, C-level guy, and I'm not going to use a name, off of LinkedIn. He says, MSP community, here's my 2025 industry predictions. Ready? I want to hear your thoughts in two categories. What will change and what won't change? I'll start.
Are you putting this on the screen or just reading them off?
I'm just going to read it.
All right.
I'll start with a few. I'm literally reading the post. Automation and AI will meaningfully reduce labor expenses for progressive and profitable MSPs this year, 2025. Let me read that one more time. Automation and AI will meaningfully reduce labor expenses.
I think I don't. That's a kind of bold. That's not a. It's a very vague prediction because by how much? I think it's already doing it in some ways. You got companies like Roost who are automating a whole bunch of functionality that allows your techs to not spend as much time chasing the stuff that they used to chase, right? So that's that's somewhere where it's already doing it. So, yeah, sure. It's a prediction that's already happening. By what percentage do you think it's going to be huge? That's a whole different story.
Hold on. Here's his next prediction and see where this goes. Offshoring talent will become an even more increasingly popular option in 2025. I think it just might explode this year.
There's a possibility, and the only reason I say that is I'm torn on this one, George, because of a number of different things. But I have witnessed, we both know companies that do a lot in the Philippines, right? And the Philippines are very strong. They speak the language. They work off hours. The pay obviously is right up an MSP's alley, where if you want to pay, less fees to get the talent to do that type of stuff, and we've seen people be very successful at it.
Hold on. His first thing is, hey, we're going to use technology to bring the labor costs down and need less people. Then he's like, oh, by the way, we're also going to offshore these jobs, so you need even less. Like, I kind of feel like we're going down a path.
I know what you're saying with that, and maybe there's a thread for this person and why this is popping up this way.
I just want to point out, on top of the fact that there are more people available in the technology industry now for hire than have ever been.
But as we discussed, if their going rate is well above what people can afford, they're going to go towards these other alternatives.
Fair. Okay.
That's why I'm torn on it, because look.
Okay.
I don't feel like, me, I'm an in-person guy. I'm a person of, if I could find somebody that could do make the connection and be, present, I would go with that first. But if there are jobs where they don't need to be present, I just want
to point out, and I brought it up with previous podcasts, previous conversations, like, if McDonald's, who has more money than probably almost our entire sub-industry as a whole generates in a year, have tried over 90 locations in 3 states in 2024 to remove the drive-through human being operator to receive orders so that you can then proceed to pay and collect your food, and it failed.
How is the other thing going? The kiosk in the dining room.
That's fine. That one is working, like where they have reduced their in-store staff from order. They still have an order taker in these stores, by the way.
Yeah.
They
Most
have one
I
cash,
feel like a lot of people skip the kiosk and go to the person if they can
right?
get it.
So there's still a cash register, right, and a person.
Yeah.
But then there's 5, 6, 7 screens, right, where you can go and put your order in on your own. But my point is, they didn't totally rip out the human being. They've and now their human beings were turned into, hey, your order is available for pickup. Come pick it up here, right?
Right. Well, why don't you go to your favorite spot? What makes Chick-fil-A so great? It's the humans.
No,
It's
oh,
the people.
and me and I was just posted on my social feed that I got the invite to go to Chick-fil-A headquarters and do the behind the scenes tour. I think we should go. I think we should go, Kenny P. I would love to see what their operation center looks like, but I digress. I still at my local Chick-fil-A, and I have Chick-fil-A Uber's platinum status, whatever they call it, the top status, universe status, not on Delta, Chick-fil-A. Yes, it's the thing. Signature status, they call it. I'm good. I'm good until 2026, right? I'm ahead of the game. All right. At my local Chick-fil-A, the mobile lane and the normal lane, like the mobile lane is still dramatically lower. I've never seen the mobile lane busier than, you know what I mean? Like there's always one car, two cars, and everybody else is in the regular lane.
We've seen, you and I have been on the road, and I remember the first time you took me to a drive-through Chick-fil-A and there was 30 cars, and I'm like, dude, we're not gonna make it where we're going. You're like, trust me. And we got in the line with 30 cars, and those 30 cars move faster than 2 cars in a McDonald's drive-through.
100%.
So I agree. And that they come up, they greet you, they talk to you while you're in the line, so it makes it feel a little faster too. They're already getting information and making you feel comfortable with being in that line. I got to admit, that was a crazy moment. 30 cars, and I'm like, dude, we're not gonna make it.
If anybody needs to take a page out of their book, Wendy's, they're always the slowest. What the hell's going on into Wendy's? This is so damn
I don't
slow.
know.
I don't know. Anyway, so then he goes off and says, MSPs that have struggled to produce, remember VCPE guy, MSP that have struggled to produce top quartile results in the past will continue to struggle unless they make a meaningful change.
Oh my God. What is
Sure.
that?
Okay.
That's not a prediction. That's a fact.
Okay.
Hey,
Then he said,
George,
yeah.
if you continued to eat the way you were eating last year, you
Yeah.
would continue to be out of shape and feel shitty after every, like, come on. That's not a prediction.
Yes, if I didn't switch from the spicy chicken sandwich at Chick-fil-A to the grilled chicken nuggets, I would have had a problem. There's no question. See, I put it all together here.
I'm just saying that's not a prediction.
Okay, MSPs that offer point solutions, and then in parentheses he says co-managed. Where's Bob Coppage when you need him? In addition to a fully managed offering, will grow faster than others.
Again, that's math. That's not a prediction.
Okay. Then he says the M&A activity will feature more sub $5 million revenue MSPs than ever before, and the consolidation of consolidator trends will pick up steam.
Because there's nothing else left.
But then he says the total number of transactions will decline.
That's an odd, that part's a little, well, I mean, that part's a little odd when you think about the fact that they are hitting the sub 5 million. I have a lot of friends that I'm talking to say that they get called and they get people are notifying them all the time saying, hey, we want to buy you up without any knowledge, without any conversation.
Wow.
I know that's going to happen because they're already, a lot of the big boys are already getting picked up.
I hear you. I hear you. And then I couldn't help, because Jay McBain, right? He always puts out his predictions. I don't know if they're always right, but I'll give him, a head nod that he puts them out. So I'll read some of his predictions, shall we? He said predictions for the technology industry by 2027. All right, 5, 6, 7, 3 years. Okay, ready? Number one, IT spending will hit 6.3 trillion in 2027. By the end of 2034, it will be double that of 2024. By 2027, Intel will cease to exist in its current form.
Yeah, of course. There's nothing left for them.
Number 3, Cisco's, CrowdStrike, Google, Fortinet, Microsoft, Palo Alto Networks, SentinelOne, Trend Micro. A lot of companies listed there. 4 out of these 8 vendors will be leading the enterprise cybersecurity platforms. Okay. Number 4, over
Yeah.
95% of distributors will struggle to secure funding in the AI era.
I mean, if you're talking about the box distributors that haven't adjusted, that could be a possibility, but I don't know.
Number 5, actually, I referenced this earlier. EU regulators will cap total data center electricity consumption at 5% of grid as society becomes more power hungry. Number 6, nearly a third of PC system level production will move away from China into Southeast Asia.
Well, they may be forced to.
Number 7, channel partners will outsource between 5 and 7 of their current services to fellow partners or vendors.
I think that's happening in a way.
Isn't that already?
I mean, you know, the what do they call like the big MSPs that are offering their services to the master MSPs are offering their services to smaller MSPs. You know, we know a few of them that do that.
Sure. Number 8, M&A in the MSP channel will grow 45% in 2025, getting back to almost 90% of pre-pandemic levels. Well, that's completely inverted to the last guy who says they'll go down.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 9, ARM-based PCs are set to capture 25% of the total laptop market. I guess that's why he's predicting Intel is having a problem.
Yeah, probably.
And number 10, at least half of all marketplace procurement will be done via channel partners on behalf of their end customers. So what's the other half? Shadow IT?
Or the actual or direct. And isn't that what like isn't Pax8's marketplace supposed to be more of an approach where they've worked with the partners to set up these things in the marketplace, and then when a end user goes to the marketplace and picks something, they go, "Oh, George Bardisi, here's your match, and this company wants these things, right?" And
I
you
have
pick that
yet
up.
to see that happen, but
No, but
okay.
that's the direction from what I've seen. You know, just from the last year or so, maybe two, the conversations seem to be pointing towards that, which makes sense. But so that would be the other way, right? Where you know they're able to, just like they do anywhere else, go shop for it themselves because it's already been done, put up on a marketplace, and then they match you up with an MSP.
I'll believe it when I see it. How about that?
Yeah, I see it. I know.
Bold ideas, but it's all about execution at this point.
Okay.
So at this point, we get into any predictions for 2025.
Oh,
Anything that comes off the top of your head.
I don't do predictions because I'm bad. I'm
Oh,
bad at predictions. That's why when I say these things, it's more about absolutes.
sure.
How about this one? I'm going to pander a little bit. I think that BVoIP's going to have a stellar year. I see you guys made a big move and you got a new employee. See, everybody else is letting people go and BVoIP's hiring people. So you and your team and Ryan Denning for 2025, I think it's going to be a banner year for you guys. So there you go.
I appreciate you saying that. Obviously, this is not a B-Boy podcast, but that being said, yeah.
Right. That's why I said it and you didn't. See how that works?
We did not prepare for this, guys, before this episode. No, I appreciate you saying that. Listen, I actually, funny enough, and I'll kind of put this thought out there. So I posted this one right before New Year's, so on the 29th. It was like 10-year kind of like, think back session. And I posted it as a blog article, but it's like, hey, we got to 10 years as a software vendor company in the IT managed services, kind of bubble sandbox space. And we've all heard the cliches, right? If you make it to 4 years, you're past 80% of the businesses out there, et cetera. And I put like a bunch of different things that I reflected on, and I'll just give you the titles, right? Like the team. And I kind of reference a lot of how the NFL works and how GMs work and the
Right.
partners, the technology, the just general business outlook, the community collaboration, just mindset. And then like what comes next from here. But here's the reality, right? You learn a lot of stuff as you go along. I remember Andy Reid, who was a football coach, and before he went to Kansas City and started winning all these Super Bowls, he's in Philadelphia for almost 14 years. And we always said in sports radio here in Philadelphia, he was stubborn. He couldn't just follow the trend of the rest of the industry. He had to do it his way. Yeah, I think we're all stubborn from this part of the world, Andy. So like I don't blame you for 14 years of that mentality, but you know, could have taken outside money. All right. Could have done what a lot of other companies in the industry did, right? And I think by not doing that and by like bootstrapping it and that like it gave us the freedom to do things that were not status quo and following the rules and living in between the lines of that were painted by others. And we did some cool things, right? Like
Mhm.
created some cool experiences. We went on a tour bus with Kenny P and a bunch of other people when other people said it was reckless and couldn't be done safely, which was not true. We
Turned out to be the safest thing that anybody did during COVID. How's that?
how about
Not
that?
one person,
Outdoors.
George, think about it. Not one person, either on the bus or at the event, got COVID from that, from either one, from either place.
So like I think back and I say, I don't think we would have had the autonomy to do some of the things that we did
Right.
if we had, the people behind the people, right? And the strings that come along with that. So, I think I look back and I genuinely appreciate that we had that flexibility. And I don't think we would have had as fun a time doing what we're getting to this point otherwise. All that being said, you're also forced to make decisions that you may not agree with. And I've seen, I won't name them by name, but I read my mind, Ken. I know a lot more than I can count on these two hands companies in the last 10 years in our space that were forced to make, people changes, business terms changes, just genuinely things that like a business, like it's like anti-business almost logic. And we're like, why did you do that? And it was because of these backroom terms of, of taking outside money. And you know what? It stinks, right? Because it puts good people in a bad position when that happens. And some of the people you referenced, right? They got catapulted into a stratosphere where they were getting paid a lot of money. And I'm not saying that they weren't valued. And I didn't say that there wasn't benefit to that person in that role and that expertise. But like, when you get into a role with a big title, there's big expectations. When you get paid
Yep.
a lot of money, there's a lot of expectations that come along with that. And you know what? When you can't hit targets that are probably more than punching up, maybe out of reach, there's a an action and consequence thing that happens, right?
Yeah. And we saw a lot of my thing for it's not a prediction, it's more advice or just follow pay attention to what's going on. For the vendors out there, it takes a long time to build a community. It doesn't take 3 months to build a vendor community, an actual community. And so when you get out there and you think it's going to take, you set expectations of 3 months, 6 months, whatever. George, and you and I have talked about this a number of times where vendors have come into the space, they hire some of the right people, and then they have these awful expectations, and then things just kind of go sideways. You got to understand that this process takes 36 to 48 months to build. If you're building a new program, that's typically the real length. Does it mean you going from, I'm not talking about to blow it up. You can blow things up somewhere in the middle, but to build a real program and get it out there properly, it takes a long time to do. It's not, did I say, I'm sorry, I said the wrong timeline, George. Um, what I'm saying is
But but
don't think it's a short.
we've also seen communities that have been around for a long time go the other way.
I just saw the note that I missed that note.
I mean,
Pete.
you've all. Yeah, I mean, I missed it too. Hold on, let's see. It's in the Q&A. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Sometimes,
Oh,
Pete.
you don't want to say that one. We're not saying that out loud.
Yeah. Okay, Pete. Yeah, we might not
Yeah, sorry,
disagree,
I
but we'll
just
leave
saw
that
that.
to off
So,
that.
anyways,
But
just understand the expectations when you're trying to build a program, and then the other side of this is MSPs. Again, when you're looking to grow and build what you're doing, one, don't let anybody tell you that what you're doing is completely wrong. But the flip side of that is, to George's point earlier, don't be so stubborn that you're not willing to change if it means it's going to get you to a next level where you want to be.
no,
We see it far too much where we
no.
get so locked into something. Now, here's an example. If you're doing break fix and it's working for you, don't listen to anybody tell you that break fix is wrong. It's not wrong. You're doing break fix, you love it, and it works. The world needs break fix. We need MSPs that don't want to do that, love you. So if that's what you're doing, do it and do it right, do it ethically, be strong at it. What I'm talking about from the other side of this is, if someone's willing to give you advice or help you help you along the way, check it out, look at it, see a different point of view. And by the way, sometimes things that people give you ideas, it's not taking the whole idea, it's taking a piece of that idea and tying it to the way you do business. And sometimes that's where the coolest things happen, is merging it with the way you think and changing your business. That's how I did it back in the day when I finally woke up. And I didn't wake up on my own. Somebody kicked me in the pants, right, George? We talk about that. Sometimes it takes people, giving you a nudge and saying, hey, what are you doing? And we all need that. But if you want to grow, especially going into what's going on now, if you really want to be a full-blown MSP, you got to start listening. You got to start opening yourself up, and you definitely have to take care of your people and your teams and make sure that they're a part of the process.
Well,
That would be my advice going into 2020.
here's my advice to the people on the other side. You can also be very stubborn on the other side. And the whole too big to fail is baloney.
Yeah.
I think we've seen it play out before our eyes. So just because you say you have built a community, and this concept of you are the community of all communities is the biggest bunch of bad baloney in the dumpster behind Walmart I've ever heard. I'm sorry. Community is specifically broken. It's like a neighborhood, multiple neighborhoods in the same city, right? There is no one community of all communities. And you can absolutely go down just like anything else if you neglect. And quite frankly, people are going to go to what helps them. And if they don't feel that they're being helped, they're not going to keep going.
Yeah. You don't want to get me started on the word community. I think that word has been thrown around more than maybe a little bit less than AI, but it's still been thrown around quite a bit. It's like
I mean, there is a need for it.
No, there's a need for it, but there's a need for true community, George, to your point, where people are using the word community to suck people into an idea. And that's not the right idea. If you're talking about community, we talked about this before. Eric Bowles is my guy for bringing to light what I've been thinking the whole entire time. Community is not about belonging to something. Community is about belonging to something that makes belonging matter. That's true community.
But somewhere in the middle of everything you just said is people helping people.
Right. That's what I mean.
Hold on.
If you help
Without
me,
the expectation of something back.
exactly. Without expecting things in return. That's 100%.
The whole
I
pay
actually
it
have that
forward
in a
thing,
write-up somewhere.
the whole pay it forward thing, right? Like I wish somebody helped me. I learned the hard way, but if I can help somebody else not have to learn the hard way, then I already did something better. That mentality is what we're talking about, not the, hey, you're a community for a price.
Yeah.
Hey, you're a
right.
community because I've now made you the product. Hey, you're a community because I'm going to tax somebody else to make sure that you get what you need, but they're disenfranchised. That needs to stop.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. We could do a whole other show about community, but we're at time.
I got you, brother. Well, 2024 is in the books. I hope everybody got all, everybody waits to the tax man in March and April. Be ahead of time, please. Like get your stuff together so you're not waiting till the last second. This is a guy who, speaks from experience. 2025, all I can ask anyone, that listens to this podcast is, don't be so blinded that you're unwilling to ask for help. Even if it's just a floating idea and you're looking for feedback, ask, put it out there. right? I'm not saying, give your IP out for free, but like, Elon Musk edition, like here it is, go download all my stuff, make electric cars. But, like there is help out there. There's absolutely help out there. And if you don't look for it, you're not willing to talk about it, you're not willing to accept it, you're going to be back in castle mentality land where, everybody's your competitor. It's so much more to that, than that idea. And quite frankly, Ken's one of the guys out there that I wish I had met Ken sooner, to be totally honest, in the journey, right? Because like Ken was a guy that, was a pay it forward guy that, had I even just a couple of years ahead of time, had I run into Ken, I probably wouldn't have waited till 2024 to go, get some of my stuff cleaned up. But I digress. Here we are. Everything happens when it's supposed to happen. Ken, appreciate you, buddy. And for everyone, I'm sure, hey, we're all fact checkers here, right? This episode was recorded. You can go back and listen to all these 2024, 2025 predictions. We'll see how they turn out, in 2026. Have a great year, Ken. I'm sure I'm going to see a lot of you, at a Chick-fil-A somewhere in some city.
Yeah, that's not really where we usually see each other, but unless we're on a bus. But yeah, no, looking forward to 2025. Looking forward to continuing to do more with the community as a whole, right? And I know George is a big part of that. That's I think if George and I had a chance to do the bus thing a hell of a lot earlier, it would have been definitely more beneficial for both of us. But the bus did make that change and allow us to make some positive impact on each other and really, try to get this community thing right, which it's still evolving. And I'm hoping that 2025 will continue that trend. And I know I'm going to see you at a party somewhere for sure. But yeah, man, I'm just I'm glad to be a part of it. I think we have some really cool stuff going on this year together and separately. I think both our companies are going to do well. We got a lot of cool things going on, so looking forward to seeing that. And yeah, man, happy New Year, everybody! Just a really cool time.
Looking forward to seeing you, buddy. Talk to you, everyone else. Talk to you somewhere along the line. Hopefully, somewhere in person, out on the road. Maybe not a tour bus, but a hotel lobby bar somewhere or Chick-fil-A. Take it easy, guys. See ya.
Bye, guys.